Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu podcast, episode number 71, how to get out of bad positions, the champion's mindset.
What's up, Kieren?
Hey, Adam.
Let's just first address the elephant in the room of why I sound like a different person.
It's more like a frog in your throat.
I sound like a frog. Yeah, God, hearing it now back through the headset.
Adam has COVID.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Well, it's actually rather relevant to, I guess, what we're talking about today, which is coincidental, how to get out of bad positions. But anyone wondering if you're a regular listener, why I sound so different? No, I'm not sick. I've already done my COVID stint. I got my throat crushed incredibly hard last night. Probably the worst I've ever had the front of my throat crushed in my entire career of training jiu-jitsu and competing in jiu-jitsu. I've never had it crushed as hard as I got it crushed last night. So I'm paying the price with quite a raspy voice. I sound like how I sound at the end of a comp day when I'm coaching.
Yeah, after yelling for so long.
Yeah. So hopefully we have a comp. I mean, today's a Tuesday. We have a competition on Sunday, so less than a week away. So hopefully my throat's better by Sunday.
You need
because I actually lose my voice quite quick at competitions. I don't know if that's just me or I don't yell correctly.
Definitely don't.
Yeah, like one or two fights in, I've already gone super raspy. I think we spoke about this previously on an episode. One of our students, Adam, who's an ex-military guy like yourself, said there's something
Frog voice
or something. Yeah, the way drill sergeants are taught to be able to essentially scream without damaging their voice.
Yeah, it's really from the diaphragm, and I did a little bit of that training because I was a guard commander, so a ceremonial position for a few months, and I had to try that, and I would still lose my voice. I'd get overexcited, or during training it would be fine, but then when the day came, I'd get excited and do a lot of throat yelling because it's easier.
Yeah,
for quite untrained people.
Yeah,
but
might have to go. I might have to go get a voice coach. Imagine I take singing lessons and they're like, "Oh, what do you want to sing?" I'm like, "No, I just want to yell. I want to
scream, bro. Yeah,
I just want to scream.
Yeah, well,
but anyway, that's why I sound like this.
We'll push on.
It hurts so bad.
We'll push on, and today, as the title suggests, we're talking about getting out of bad positions. So very reminiscent of your experience last night trying to escape a submission.
I would just like to clarify. I got out.
Yeah, demonstrate you did.
It just cost me a bit.
Yeah. Everything has a price.
Yeah.
But I think the inspiration or the reason for today's episode wasn't your experience last night. It's more that we've touched on this in the past in previous episodes, that getting out of a bad position is always going to be difficult. It's never easy. And it requires not only the knowledge on how to escape, like the practical, okay, put your hand here, do this, do that, but it also requires a bit of a mindset shift. And I think that's the direction of today's episode, is we're going to touch on not giving you, okay, so when you're in bottom mount, you need to do this, but more like, hey, let's realign your expectations when in bad positions.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I tell this to my students a lot, that in the early days, not even only in the early days, anyone who hasn't had this sort of shift in the way they think about bad positions in jiu-jitsu is exactly like you said, it will always be hard, always. So when you get beginners, you'll often teach them side control escape, mount escape, whatever it is, triangle escape. And then they try it in a roll and it, doesn't work in air quotes. The reality is that it's not going to work all the time. If I'm training with a competent blue belt, even though there's a huge difference in skill, it'll still be hard for me, right? Because you're in a bad position. You're starting at a negative. Just because you know the technique, which of course you need to know the technical escape. Let's just stick with side control for argument's sake. You know multiple side control escapes, right? It's always going to be hard. and this sort of, oh, I tried it and I wasn't able to escape, therefore it doesn't work. You know, sometimes beginner people or people who haven't had this shift in their mentality, they just instantly write off like that technique, right? Thinking, oh, well, I tried it and it didn't work. Well, man, it's not a be all and end all answer. You know, think about it this way. The same way that you're on the bottom and you weren't able to escape side control and you think like, oh, fuck, you know, it doesn't work. Think about the times you're on top and someone escapes your side control and you think, man, how did they get out? Like I was in the better position.
You never think side control doesn't work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You don't go, well, side control top doesn't work. I'll never go there.
Yeah.
All the times you have someone in an armbar, a fully extended armbar, and they manage to escape, right? And you think, well, armbars don't work. No, like you start hating on yourself going like, man,
fuck it. Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
So if you had a hypothetical clone of yourself and it was Adam side control on top versus Adam side control on the bottom, the Adam on the bottom should never get out, right? Like, you know, the position itself, it's kind of like saying, all right, Kieren, like we've got this game of football, this game of soccer or whatever, but you start with like your opponent already has 5 goals. Now go win.
Yep.
It's like you got to score 5 times just to bring it back to even.
Yeah.
You know,
and then if each team was comprised of clones of one another, in theory, the game should end 0-5 or like.
That's right. We got Brazil team A and Brazil team B, but Brazil team A comes into the match with 3 goals ahead.
Yeah.
Right. It's still possible for Brazil team B to win, but man, it will always be hard.
And we're not saying that if you're in a bad position in a comp and everything's equal, like your similar skill level or whatever, that you should just give up. Like that's not what it's saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, I definitely don't want.
Imagine, Adam said that it's possible for me to escape.
All the listeners are like, so what I got out of this is why bother?
Yeah.
Right? No.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this because I want you to embrace the challenge opposed to think, oh, well, then what's the point? You know, because it's proven that you can get out. Like it is possible.
Yeah.
It's been proved. It's not like, oh, this one dude did it. So no, fucking lots of people do it. Lots of people get out of bad positions. Lots of people in good positions. Everyone does it every day in
jiu-jitsu. It's like, it's constant.
People in good positions make mistakes.
Yep.
You know, that even if your side control escapes aren't that good, maybe the person on top makes a mistake and you easily re-guard or easily roll them over, whatever. So, you need to have that shift of, let's assume you've got a good qualified instructor and you can execute the technique correctly. If it doesn't work that one time, it doesn't matter. Like it's okay. It goes in line with, we could be talking about getting out of bad positions or even attacking or whatever, but another sort of mental shift that I like to push through to my students is, I can feel an analogy coming.
Yes. Channel it. Let it consume you.
Is that sometimes people, let's talk about guard passing, right? Someone will try 100% to pass their partner opponent's guard and they fail. They don't necessarily get swept or submitted, but they just didn't get past the guard. And then you start doubting yourself. Like in the moment, you start kind of digging yourself deeper thinking, oh man, that was everything. Yeah. That was my best move and it didn't work. Therefore, I won't be able to pass his guard. No, that's the wrong way to think about it. It is, if it doesn't work, right, or if you weren't successful, you try again, whether it's the same pass or a different pass. And the analogy I want to draw is it would be unrealistic for a boxer to think that 100% of his punches are going to land. So when he throws a punch that his opponent either blocks or slips, does the boxer go, oh man, that was my best uppercut.
Yep.
And he dodged it. Oh man, like I can't,
I'll never hit him.
I'll never hit this guy. No, right? Yeah. And so it's 100%. Anyone listening who has trained for, more than 6 months or a year or something, I'm sure you've had this thought when it comes to a pass or a sweep or something where, your best move didn't work, and then you start thinking like, oh, I can't sweep him.
Yeah, this doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, or this doesn't work against this guy, or no, it does, right? And it's the same with grip fighting. It's unrealistic to think you're going to get 100% of the grips you want. People break grips, they swat your hands away, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you keep going, and it's the same with escaping bad positions, right? It's just on top of that, you need to also be on board with the added challenge that you're starting 5 goals down or whatever. You're starting at a disadvantage. So not only are you starting at a disadvantage, but it is also more difficult than passing or whatever. And if that first side control escape doesn't work or whatever, man, like doesn't mean that escape won't work again, or on its second attempt, or it also doesn't mean that you can't escape this person's side control, right? They shut it down that once, maybe they don't the second time or the third time.
Exactly.
So you need to get on board. I say that a lot, I feel.
Get on board.
Who was it? Was it my students or someone visiting the gym? Someone, only a few weeks ago said that they were listening to an episode, and I think it was maybe the one not that long ago, titled something along the lines of "I got my blue belt, now what?" And they said to me, "Oh, I listened to that episode, and so essentially just stop being a pussy, right?"
Yeah.
I was kind of like, they sort of took it like, "Oh, that episode was a bit disheartening."
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. I don't want to come across
reality check, bro. You need a dose of reality
check.
Yeah.
But, that's a bit of a different subject. We're talking about, your progression in jiu-jitsu. But like I've just come across so many students, more white belts, right? That really just think that, oh, I know the move, so it should work. Like when you're talking about getting out of bad positions, or like sometimes people will ask, oh, how do I get out of an armbar? Okay, there's lots of armbar escapes, but man, like it's a very hard spot to get out of. You're already up against the ropes, man. It's like, man, I don't know, whatever sport you want to bring an analogy to, like fucking, rugby league, a very popular sport in Australia. Like, oh man, how do I score a try when they're all the way up in our end zone or whatever it's called in rugby league, right? Not end zone, try line, right? Like, they're at our 10-meter line. How do I score a try? Well, I mean,
first you got to get the ball.
Intercept the ball and run 90 meters.
It's incredibly rare and difficult. Right. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And it's like when people say, oh, how do I escape a deep rear naked choke? Bro, you're probably not. Like, don't get there in the first place. Like, as bad as that sounds, like, but if you are in that position, it's going to be fucking hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to require a lot of energy output. You need to focus on multiple things at the same time. But yeah, it is difficult. And just to your analogy, when you were saying that if, as an example, if you're trying to pass someone's guard and you go 100%, you go 100% blast at the start of a match or whatever, say you're competing, they pull guard, you 100% blast them, they shut down everything. If you're then thinking, fuck, I couldn't pass, that I'm never going to be able to pass this guy. That was 100% of everything I had. Maybe they're thinking, holy shit, if I get one of those again, I'm fucked.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Right.
You don't know what they're thinking.
And I've been in that position as well, where someone's attempted to pass or someone's attempted to sweep me or whatever. And, I successfully defend it. And then I've thought to myself, holy fuck, man, I only just saved face then,
Yep,
and
100%.
And is my opponent then thinking, oh man, that was everything, I'm not going to pass? Or are they thinking, all right, round 2, bitch?
Yeah, got him. Yeah.
Right?
He nearly faulted. It's the same when escaping though. It's the exact same. So say you blast your escape, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe they shut it down, but the person trying to hold you down is a holy fuck. This person is getting out. I'm struggling here. I don't think I can hold them.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before. I've been trying to pin someone down in side control, and I've stopped their first few attempts, but I mean, it's only a matter of time. You know what I mean? So they don't know that.
Yeah. So that sort of mental shift, if you can really I don't want to say invoke, but if you can really, that just becomes something that happens subconsciously for you, right? It will take you a long way. it'll still creep in every now and again, especially when something's on the line. You know, maybe you made it to the finals of a competition or
You're in a bad
whatever.
position and you're like, that little voice tells you to give up.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
It's
a
the worst.
constant sort of, you know, mental battle that you'll have in jiu-jitsu. But, you know, when you're talking about submissions as well, you know, if you think about it, it's got from 0 to 100 as in like, okay, I'm in the submission, but I don't know, let's say like I'm in an armbar, but my hands are connected. I've got a really good defensive grip, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got 100, which is you tapping. Right? Obviously, the closer you are to 100, the harder it is for you to escape. Okay, so like you said, when people ask like, oh, how do I get out of this position? I'll have people ask me, how do I get out of like a fully extended armbar? It's like, man, I can show you a technique, but it's maybe going to work like 1% of the time.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're against an equally skilled opponent.
Like a hitchhikers or something.
Yeah, like even hitchhikers. People ask me about that escape all the time, a hitchhiker's escape from an armbar. It's a great escape. Like it is a great escape, but it is not, there is no magic secret technique that, you know, for some reason no one knows except, you know, your coach, and he's going to teach you and you're going to go on and become world champion. Because like, I mean, if there was only one move that worked, right, everyone would do it. And
it would neutralize that submission, right?
Yeah, like, you know, so hitchhikers is a great armbar escape. But then again, you know, it works whatever, 1% of the time.
Sometimes
you know?
it doesn't.
A lot of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
And when something rare happens, it gets more attention, right? So, you know, oh, but I saw that dude get it, or that dude did it, or this dude did it. It's like, yeah, and I saw a billion more people submit their opponent with arm bars, right?
Yep.
So the further in you are, of course, the difficulty level just increases, goes up and up and up and up.
And this mental shift that we're talking about, this is something that you've obviously, you know, spoken about at the gym before, and you've told me like specifically and directly about, you know, you need to think this way, and it helps to avoid getting in those bad positions. It is also a very common habit, and I mean, I'd say for many people, all up and down the belt levels, right, is to not fight as hard as they should be to avoid being in bad positions. For example, say someone is trying to pass your guard, and maybe you concede because, you know, you don't put enough energy in, or it's like very taxing and you just want to, you know, get it over and done with, and then look at escaping then. But then you're in a worse position that requires way more energy. It's much more uncomfortable. It's more painful, etc. And then you've basically, you need to then invest way more to get back to where you were.
Yeah.
So why not put the energy up front?
Yeah, think about it like this. There's, you know, there's lots of times people use this sort of expression, I guess you could say, whether we could be not even talking about jiu-jitsu, just things in life in general, where people will say like, you know, oh, that's future Adam's problem, or, you know, or like, oh man, I'm going to do future Adam a solid.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, you always want to do future Adam a solid, right? Like you never want to go like, oh, I'm getting past, I'm just going to concede. Future Adam can deal with that because it is a matter of 3 seconds till they've consolidated and you are now present. Future Adam has become present Adam.
I literally still do this to this day. Even last night I was doing this a bit where I knew I could have fought more to maintain my guard, but I conceded and then I'm like stuck. And then you're like, fuck, I really screwed this.
Yeah.
Now I need to shift into that mindset of this is going to be difficult to get out of.
Yeah.
This is going to take a bit to get out of.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not saying spaz out uncontrollably, indefinitely. It's 3 seconds.
Just put your energy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 3 seconds for position consolidation. So for that 3 seconds, spaz like you've never spazzed before.
Yeah. Channel your white belt self.
Yeah. But then after that, you can chill and realize that like you did get past or you did get swept or whatever. And off you go to work.
Start working your, you know, your escape, start being, you know, efficient with your energy and etc.
Speaking of like future Adam and like, man, past Adam's a prick because I have the most monumental pile of dishes at my house right now. Just remembered.
I thought you were going to refer to your
no, I'll tell that. But like, fuck, I just like cooked something and burnt the pan, and like you can only get away with the whole like, oh, that needs to soak.
Oh, that's the lazy man's excuse for not
no, but
cleaning.
this one needed to soak because hang on, it's a frying pan that's already on its way out.
Oh.
And then I cooked fish in it, and like the skin of the fish just, I was like, I'm sitting here right now. The more I think about it, I'm like, I might just throw that pen.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, like the bad position as to what happened to my throat. We may as well tell that story. It's very fresh, only 12 hours ago. So we had, I think, our first sort of, I don't want to say the word fan because it sounds a bit like
Sounds lame.
But
yeah,
our first listener visit the gym, right?
Yeah.
So Alex
shout out to Alex.
yeah, thanks for coming, Alex. Alex came down to visit. He's from North Australia, like up in Queensland. It's north of Sydney for anyone who's not from Australia. It's like depending where, right? But let's just call it an hour and a half flight. And he came down to visit and we trained. And Alex, we didn't have this conversation after our roll, but this is for you, my friend. Right. So Alex, big dude, lovely dude, really friendly dude. We had a super fun roll. You rolled with him too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really nice for him to come down. And however, he did try to Ezekiel choke me in my closed guard. And Alex is a big dude. I'm a big dude too. We're both around the 100 kilo mark. So there was no sort of he's getting away with this or that because of his weight, because we were about the same size and weight. He tried to Ezekiel choke me in my closed guard. Alex, it doesn't work, bro. Right? I mean, it sounded like it
sounds like a fucking work.
It's sounding like it worked, right? But if the goal of jiu-jitsu was to give your opponent a raspy voice, then it works.
Yeah.
But for anyone wondering why it doesn't work, it's because it's 2 arms, 2 legs against your 2 arms, right? And yes, maybe there's some people listening being like, but I saw this dude do that, whatever. Well, it goes back to when we was talking about the hitchhiker's escape, right? When something is an anomaly and it happens, it gets more traction and it's more interesting, okay? Or just because one person gets away with something, it's like the example when people say like, oh, but like Steve Jobs didn't finish university. It's like, yeah, well,
like you Steve Jobs, bro.
Yeah. It's like, firstly, didn't he drop out of Harvard or something? And secondly, who else didn't finish uni? That dude, that dude, like all those other people that have shit jobs. So, so Alex had me that, we were rolling like not that hard. We were kind of just having a friendly roll. He went for the Ezekiel. And he was crushing my throat pretty hard.
Yeah.
But, it's not a position that like it wasn't going to put me to sleep or anything. It was painful, but, it was pain that I could take, right? Yeah, my throat's copped a bit of damage for it, but, it's nothing that is worse than when I'm going to scream at the competition on Sunday. So I copped some damage for it, but then I was able just to use my hips and my legs and push him away, and there goes the Ezekiel. But, in that time, I won't lie, like it was a huge amount of discomfort on my throat, right? It was actually incredibly uncomfortable. But, at that point in time, it's a bad position. I'm like, okay, well, like I'm just going to dig deep. And I know the mechanics of how I'm getting out of this position, and I'm safe here. I just need to embrace this sucks a bit. And then I got out and off we go. And the roll continued. And, it did come at a cost though. Right. And it brings me to my next point that I want to talk about in training in bad positions, right? Particularly submission, I should say. And kind of how you should fight them in training and how far you should fight them, Kieren, right? And your inability to tap. Okay.
Yeah.
How many times have you had sore elbows?
From armbar. Particularly when I was a white belt, man. Fucking like every other week, I'd be letting it go to the nth degree, like letting them, like I'd be holding with dear life, and then all of a sudden my grip would just fling out,
and then like slingshots, right?
Slingshot, and it's just not good.
Yeah. So in training, like, don't forget anything else we've spoken about in this episode in terms of like embracing how difficult the challenge is to get out of bad positions. But when you're in submissions, it is not every day in training that you need to see how deep you can go and still get out. I don't mean as in like let yourself get in the most fully extended armbar and then try to escape. I mean like you can't always in training, pay the physical price and get out. So for example, like the Ezekiel from last night with Alex, I kind of wanted to make a point to just sort of not make a point. That sounds like I was like, ooh, I'm making a point, but I just wanted to like, it doesn't work from that position. And, you know, I wanted to reinforce that by getting out of the submission. And, you know, if I was just having a casual, you know, la-di-da roll, would I have tapped? Yeah, like probably because, you know, I don't want to pay that price to my throat every day, right? But because it wasn't, Ezekiel's aren't typically a blood choke unless someone's, you know, unless you get on the carotid arteries. It's often a throat choke, right? It's incredibly painful, wasn't going to put me to sleep. And because it was, if he had mount on me, sorry, I should say, like if Alex had mount on me, I would have tapped straight away, right? Because it was a good, solid choke, right? But because of the position it was in, I didn't want to reinforce a bad habit. And I was willing to pay that price to get out. But I can't pay that price every day to my throat. And it goes the same for all submissions, right? The price you pay to escape a fully extended armbar is usually some damage to your elbow or your shoulder or something. And from a competitive point of view, I think it is important to sometimes pay that price because you need to know like
where the limit is, where the line is.
Where the absolute limit is,
you need
right?
to float with that line sometimes.
But I guess when you're talking about the mechanics of what we do in jiu-jitsu, that line, you know, the closer you get to it, the more dangerous the consequences are. If you're talking about much more lethal submissions like heel hooks or something, obviously the dangers of that line can become, you know, quite severe injuries to your knees. You know, even drilling heel hooks, I'll have sore knees, right? So it's important, I think, from a competitive point of view, to see how far you can push and make it out and pay that price and have a sore elbow for a week or so. But yeah, you can't do that all the time, right? It's a price that when you do it in the gym and you know what you're capable of, you then know what you're capable of in a competition. So you, as someone who spent a bit of time, you know, looking back at it, probably not tapping early enough in a lot of arm bars, but you've now learnt that lesson and you'll carry that forward, that if you're in an arm bar in a competition, I feel like you're always going to tap before it breaks, right? But you're also, you know how far you could push that, like, yeah, I'm going to get out. I'm probably going to have a sore elbow for a couple of weeks, but like I'm going to get out, and that sacrifice is worth it to you because, you know, we're using our bodies. You're always going to pay a physical sacrifice, right? Like so a boxer might be willing to cop a shot to the ribs because it opens up that, you know, shot to the chin that he's going to do to his opponent, right? So you need to be willing to test that, but you can't do it all the time in training, right? Otherwise you're just like held together with tape.
Yeah, and then you'll not be able to train as effectively, and in the long run, it's going to hurt your jiu-jitsu rather than help it. Yeah. But I mean, I go through that all the time, probably a bit too often. Might be an ego thing, is the whole like bite down on your mouth guard and go. Like, say for example, if I'm in maybe
bite down on your pillow.
Yeah, bite the pillow. No, if this happens a lot when someone's trying to do some form of rear naked choke, but they don't quite have it, and they're across the face. You know, they're not really choking, but it's very painful. More often than not, I would just bite down on the mouth guard and cop it. And do I need to be copping that like strain and stress across my jaw as consistently as I do? Probably not. But I know that if I'm in a competition, I know where that line is now. I know if it's not choking, I can just hold on. Yeah. And, you know, nothing's going to break.
But the thing is as well that unless that person's like, let's say if it was, you know, a big, strong dude, that squeeze across your jaw could literally be enough to break your jaw, right?
I've worried about that a few times, yeah.
So unless you feel like your jaw's going to break, right? Because I've said this multiple times, if someone puts their face in the way, just choke across their face. That's, if they don't like it, lift their chin, it's their problem. Putting your face in the way is not a defense. It buys some time, but it's not a defense. So unless you feel like your jaw's going to break, in training, if you tap, let's say I'm on your back and I'm trying to rear naked choke, it's not on very nice and it's a bit on your face and whatever. And yeah, it's painful for you, but you don't feel like you're going to cop like, actual proper damage. If you tap, you're not doing me any favors. You're reinforcing a bad habit for me. And then I'm going years and years and years thinking that my rear naked choke's like boss. And like, even when it's across the face, people tap, blah, blah, blah. Then I go compete and the dude doesn't tap. Because I've had years of training partners reinforcing my bad habits. I'm not saying across the face is a bad habit, but I'm saying like, like you're not doing me a favor by.
I've actually found this in another scenario. I have like a concrete example of this is the armbar scenario. So a lot of the time in the gym, when I'm fighting to get someone's arm, they will tap as they
the grip breaks.
Yeah, the grip breaks, they tap. Therefore, I have not had a lot of time being able to finish it at the full extent, because we both know that, you may break the grip, but that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the sub.
That's right.
Because you have hitchhikers, like we just mentioned. And I've been in that scenario where someone just taps because they don't want to break their arm, which is fine, but they don't let me even get any pressure applied at all. And I've gotten the habit of once the grip breaks, I essentially let go in training. However, recently, when I broke the grip of another training partner of mine, Anthony, who's a blue belt, he went straight into hitchhikers. And it was like the first time that someone has hit a full extended hitchhikers. And I was like, holy shit. Because I pretty much let go. Like, I didn't let go of his arm.
You were like, arm bars don't work.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, we're done now. But I mean, so there's
because you had a bit of like bad habits reinforced.
100% a reinforced bad habit. So in a comp, would I have like been able to like put the submission on, not crank it or try and snap the poor bastard's elbow, but like put it on in a controlled yet efficient manner? I don't know. So that's something that you need to consider as well.
Yeah, but it is a fine line because on the one hand, you're not doing your partner any favors or yourself favors by tapping too early, but at the same time, you can't
tap too late.
You can't
consequences.
You can't tap too late or dig too deep to get out all the time. Yeah. Anyone who's trained long enough has been guilty of it, where they've escaped a position and then after they've said they've been like, oh, my fucking shoulder, I should have tapped. It's like,
it's bad.
That's because now future you is being like, fucking dickhead, you should have tapped. Now I've got a sore shoulder for a few days. But, it is important to learn that skill. And, you might think when it's just training, you go, oh, it wasn't worth it. Yeah, well, in the long run, it's worth it because you're still like learning that you've got what it takes. But I guarantee you, if it was a competition and a gold medal match, you'll be saying it was worth it. Like it's worth that
for having a sore elbow. So long as you're not doing the whole like fucking let the arm break or whatever.
Yeah,
or like
because it is a full contact combat sport.
Yeah.
Like show me like a boxing world champion or a UFC world champion that goes like, oh man, this belt wasn't worth the black eye I got.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, man, I'll take 20 black eyes and a buster and a broken rib and whatever if I become UFC world champion, you know? And okay, like, well, it depends what the competition is. You're doing some little crappy competition or maybe you're at Worlds.
Yeah, it's like there's
what's worth it to you?
There's a common joke on Reddit that's like basically says the $5 gold medal at your local comp isn't worth breaking your elbow. And I agree with that, like totally. But I think I push the boundary a lot more with chokes now and like strangles. So much so that I've nearly fucking passed out so many times recently because I let it. Like there was one in particular. I don't know if anyone noticed. I think I spoke to you about it afterwards. We're doing specific training for takedown. Someone had me in a guillotine or something like that. And all I had to do was escape the guillotine to win the specific training, right? And I would have scored 2 points for the takedown. I was so close to going out that I couldn't actually stand up properly when I got back up. So I was like on my feet, but I was like about to fall over because everything was like
I think I remember that.
And I was dizzy. I was rubbing my face and you're like, oh, it cost a bit there or like something.
It's kind of like a UFC fighter who's like being rocked and they're like,
I was totally rocked. I was totally rocked. If like I had to go again straight away then, I would have been fucked. And I did go again, obviously, but I like sort of did a little pace around and stalled.
Yeah.
Dude, I nearly went out. I nearly
that long
100%
ago.
nearly went out. I thought it was going to. Like,
I remember.
I think I was so close, like as close as you can get without actually, without going out, without snoring or whatever. Fucking I do that a lot with strangles and chokes. I'll push the boundary because I mean it's not good to go out, right? It's you don't want to be doing that every day. But I've definitely learnt where my limit is because I push that boundary so often. When it comes to joints, though, I mean, I'm happy to tap a little bit early than I should. Not should, but tap appropriately with joints and because those things snap very quickly. But with chokes, I mean, I like to bite down the mouth guard and go hard, but
It's like you just like to bite down, bro.
yeah, bro, just bite down. No, it's really effective. Like on the bottom of my mouth guard, you can see like the grooves of where I've like just fucking chopped the bastard.
It's actually just like your teeth have gone through it.
Yeah. Yeah, almost.
Like you get out of the choke and your mouth guard's on your bottom.
Yeah. 100%. Just break through that barrier. But it is effective.
Yeah.
It is definitely effective.
But yeah, it's like I said, you can't do it every day. Otherwise, you're just way too sore. But I mean, for me, a bit of joint soreness, especially in competition, is worth it. I mean, I fought a comp quite a while ago now, where I actually, tore my LCL in the fight.
Yeah, this was you were doing a knee cut, right? Something like that.
No. I mean, that's how I did my first knee.
Right.
But yeah, but no, I was had a truck hook in, and anyway, my LCL just went. And yeah, I knew right at the moment that it went, but I've finished the fight, got the submission, and then I had to go fight the final with the torn LCL, and I was like, oh fuck, I knew something was bad with my knee, and took the guys back and put hooks in, and straight away felt like, nah, my knee can't do that, and anyway, ended up getting the submission again and winning that fight, and
wow.
Was it slightly irresponsible to fight another fight with a torn LCL? Yeah, probably, but for me it was worth it. Again, you look, it is a full contact combat sport. You look at boxers and UFC fighters that the damage that they take after one round and then they go back out there. I wouldn't go back out there, you know, but for them it's worth it.
Yeah.
And for me it was worth it. I actually back at blue belt fought when I first did my first knee, I blew out my meniscus in the semi-final of my weight division fight, which I unfortunately lost. But then went and fought the absolute and had, I think, 3 matches in the absolute with a blown out knee.
This was at Worlds, yeah?
No, at Pans.
Pans. Yeah.
I actually didn't want to fight the absolute. And I think I've told this story before.
Fabio came up and was like, hey, I signed you up.
I waited until the registrations had closed. And I was like, oh, pleaded ignorance. Oh, Fabio, I went to register. They closed. I couldn't register for absolute. He's like, yeah, I already put your name down.
Fuck. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's what you would do.
Yeah, I'd probably do something similar. But yeah, for those who don't know, these little local competitions in Sydney or whatever, it's probably money driven. They let whoever fight the absolute, and you got to pay to fight the absolute as well. But in IBJJF competitions, fighting the absolute doesn't cost any money, and you have to qualify, so to speak. You have to make the podium in your weight division to be allowed to fight the absolute. And then you don't have to fight the absolute. You could still just be like, no, I don't want to, and go home.
Yeah.
But if you want to fight the absolute, you first need to make the podium in your weight division, and then you can fight the absolute. Although it's different at black belt. At black belt at Worlds, it's actually, you've probably seen that the absolute takes place on the Saturday. So at Worlds, right, absolute takes place on the Saturday before the weight divisions, right? And then all the way up till usually, I think it used to be all the way up till the final. I think now it's up until the semi-final, maybe, or I could be wrong. Anyway, they fight the absolute all the way up until, the semi-final, the final, and then the finals or the final is left until the Sunday. And then on the Sunday, you have your weight divisions, right? And then the absolute finals are the last events to take place because it's considered the last thing. So it's well, how do you qualify to fight the absolute if the absolute takes place before the weight divisions?
Yeah,
well, at black belt, it's different. You can have 2 competitors per team in the absolute.
Right. So they need to limit it somehow, some way, because if there's no limit, say there's no podium limit, then the absolute becomes the second attempt for the over 99 guys, really. You know what I mean? It becomes a second,
right. If you're talking at the coloured belts, not black
talking
belt.
coloured belts.
Because at black belt, I'm not actually sure how it's this might have changed recently. I'm not sure if it's limited to 16 competitors or not. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a decade ago, there was probably only, like less than 6, 7, 8 different teams. So it didn't even matter. You can have 2 per team. So we're not going to have more than. But now with the growth, I actually don't know how it works. But for the colored belts, you're right. Absolute could just be that second attempt for like the bigger dudes.
Which on local comps, normally it is. Like normally not normally, but what I've seen more often than not, the big dudes go their weight division and then absolute.
Yeah.
And so you're fighting against the bigger dudes. Doesn't mean you're going to lose though. Don't get in your head that you're going to fucking lose.
No.
My second
not
match,
necessarily, but I will say there's sometimes you hear people say, oh, jiu-jitsu is like designed for the smaller person to beat the bigger person. It's like, but that's like a self-defense attitude. Like self-defense is always designed to work against someone who doesn't know what's up, right? And jiu-jitsu definitely, the smaller dude can beat the bigger dude if he doesn't train jiu-jitsu, 100%, right? Yeah. Whereas something, like a 50-kilo boxer against a 100-kilo guy who doesn't know how to box, I mean, could the 50-kilo go beat him in a fight? Maybe, but it's like not as sort of designed for the smaller guy to beat the bigger guy, whereas jiu-jitsu is. Yeah. But obviously when you have people who both train, if they're both equally skilled, blah, 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 and the only differentiating factor is their weight, well, that's why we have weight divisions.
100%.
And at the professional black belt level, usually, I don't –
the heavyweight.
I think in the absolute division, I can't remember the last time someone lighter than a heavyweight won. Like it's, heavyweight or super heavy guys that tend to win.
You're still going to get through the smaller guys, and that could pose a different challenge for you.
It can, but a lot of the smaller guys, like they won't even register.
Yeah.
Like Mikey Musumeci is an exception because he was challenging himself. But usually like you don't really see like lightweights like Lucas Lepri or those sort of guys.
The risk of injury is pretty high.
That's right. They don't even register for the absolute.
I've never done absolute in no-gi.
Yeah,
for that reason.
Well, and especially like you got to look at the professional level when it's the day before your weight division. If you're a lightweight or a featherweight, like your chance of winning absolute and your chance of injury against a guy who is literally twice your body weight,
and it's
also a black belt.
Like they're trying to finish it. They don't want to lose to someone that's like 40 kilos lighter than them. So you got so many different factors going into it.
The cost it can play on you to then fight your weight division the next day, right, is extreme. But it doesn't mean just big fat guys win it. Like it's guys like Buchecha, Nicholas Marigali. Like these are 100-kilo plus guys, but they're like tall, they're not frames. Fat dudes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a little bit off topic, but still very
relevant.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we'll leave it there. The overall, I mean, actually a slightly shorter episode, but that's all right.
Rest your throat.
rest my throat. It's been a bit of a recurring thing of just like, toughen up.
People to toughen up and suck it up.
But I mean, it's really I wanted to get across the importance of understanding that it is always hard and that's okay. Failed attempts doesn't mean you can't escape. You just have to try again, right? They like we spoke about, they might be thinking, holy fuck, I only just managed to hold him down. If he does that again, he's definitely getting out.
Yeah.
So you don't know what they're thinking, right? And just don't get into that whole like, well, I it doesn't work. I learned the technique and I tried it once, it didn't work. No, man. And especially when you're talking about submissions, the further in you are, the harder it is to escape. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's very unlikely.
And I find because of the nature of this sport, because of the nature of jiu-jitsu, it's very, as we kept saying throughout this episode, and we've said so many times, it's a full contact combat sport. Mindset is a huge part of your performance.
Yeah.
So if you can use some of these mindset tools and like have the appropriate mindset going in and out of different positions, different scenarios, it can be the catalyst between you escaping and not. Simply how you think about the position.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. This has been Barry White. Thanks for tuning in.